Welcome to CSEGuru. In this session, we will discuss the third category of function, that is, function with no parameter and it returns a value. So here, function with no parameter in the sense, the calling function is not going to send any arguments to the called function. And return value, that is, the called function is going to return a value to the calling function. Okay, so calling function is not passing any parameter, but the called function will return a value. Okay, so this is the third category. And here there is no data transfer from the calling function to called function. Okay, but there is a data transfer from called function to calling function. So when function returns a value, the calling function receives value from called function. That is, it will return the result to the calling function. Okay. The received value is copied to the variable that to be printed. So here, the function that returns a value can be used in expression or along with printf statement or along with assignment statement. How in the sense? Consider this main function, void main, and in this main function only, we are going to implement the function call. Okay. So here the function name is add and it is not going to pass any parameter. So simply we can place empty parameter. And the user-defined function, if you are considering int, since it is going to return some value, int add of empty parameter. Okay. So here if we are considering the return statement, we can use it along with expression. That is return of, as a loss statement, we can use return of a plus b. So here and all we will get some values. We will get the values of a and b and store with the variables a and b. Finally, return of a plus b. So what is the result of this expression? That will be returned to the calling function. This is one way of returning values to the calling function. Another way, if you are considering, consider this user-defined function add. Okay, so here use printf statement. So printf %d any some value. Okay, some in the sense some value and just it will return. So what it will return here? It won't return anything. But internally, if you are thinking in the sense, what is the result of this printf statement printed in the output screen? That will only return to the main function. So here, if you are considering internally, logically, this return statement is used along with the printf statement. Okay. And assignment statement, if you are considering in the sense, consider the user-defined function. And here, assignment statement, that is sum is equal to a plus b. Okay, and return this. The result of a plus b will be stored with the sum and it will return sum. Sorry, here return, it will return sum. Okay, so the result of a plus b will be stored with sum and this will return sum. So here the return statement is accompanied with assignment statement. Okay. So simply we can able to return variable or expression also you can able to return or along with the printf statement. Okay. So in this three ways we can able to return values to the calling function. This is an example to add two numbers. So here if we are considering this is the header file and here this is the function declaration and the return type of function is integer. Since the function returns an integer data value from the called function to the calling function. And add is the function name. Since the function does not pass any parameter here, we have specified empty parameter list. And this is the main function. And inside main function, we have declared the variable sum as integer. And then this add is nothing but the calling function. If at all we are not passing any parameter, this argument list is must. We need to specify, but we can specify this argument list as an empty parameter list. So, called function does not receive any data or value from the calling function. There is no data transfer from the calling function to the called function. Okay. And before that, we know this is function declaration. And this is calling function or function call. And here we are not entering any input values. Simply we are implementing a function call. And in the called function only, we are going to enter and accept input values. And this, if you are considering, this is function header. These things you should remember always without any confusion. And this is function body part. Okay. And this complete thing, if you are considering, this is the user defined function. That is nothing but function definition. Okay. So here we have declared sum as the integer variable and we are calling the function addition add. Okay. And the result of this calling function will be stored with the variable sum. Okay. And then print the sum value and then return. So when this function is called in the sense, immediately control will be transferred to the called function. So this is nothing but the called function. So here the return data type is integer and the function name is add, and it is not going to receive any argument from the calling function since the function category is without passing any parameter. So the calling function is not passing any parameter to the called function. Okay. Function body, if you are considering, there are three elements. One is the declaration part, and next is execution part, and finally return statement. Here we have declared three variables A and B to store the values. Okay. To get and store the values from the user, and sum is a variable to store the result. The statement int A comma B comma sum. This is the local declaration in user defined function. So add the values of A and B and store with the sum. Okay. These three statements, the printf statement, scanf statement, and sum is equal to A plus B. These statements are executable statements in user-defined function. And then finally, the return statement. Return the sum value. The sum is an integer value declared as int data type in local declaration of user-defined function. So, the return data type for the function is int. That is in function header, we have mentioned int add of empty parameter list. And once it returns the sum value, immediately control will be transferred to the calling function. So now this function result is nothing but this sum. And this sum is the result of this assignment statement. Okay. So this sum will be carried to the calling function and this result will be stored within this variable. And what is the result it is getting? That will be printed in the output screen in main function. In previous category, we have implemented printf statement here itself. Okay. Since the function does not return any value to the calling function. Now we are passing the result to the calling function and in the calling function only we are asking to print the result. Now the sum value will be printed in the output screen. And then the return statement, meaning is the program execution is completed and the control will be handed over to the operating system. So here if you are considering, the calling function is not passing any parameter to the called function, but the called function returns value to the calling function. So this is the third category. So here there is no data transfer from calling function to called function, but there is a data transfer from called function to calling function since it returns the value. Okay. So in this session, we have discussed the third category of function, that is function with no parameter and return value. In the next session, we will discuss the fourth category of function, that is function with parameter and with return value. Thank you for watching this video.